So my name is Chesa Caparas, and I use she, they pronouns, and I am a Pinay, Filipino American. I am a professor of English and Asian American Studies at De Anza College. And I also am the faculty coordinator of our Women, Gender, and Sexuality Center. Um, Proud mom and stepmom, and proud daughter and sister, and all these things. Yeah.
And in addition to working on the poetry book that you were working on in the course, you were also submitting papers for conferences, right?
Yeah. So my journey as a writer has been sort of divided between, the academic writing, which I enjoy, but it like definitely occupies a different part of my brain,
Mm-hmm.
and the creative writing. I actually started undergrad as an English major, and then took some time off because I wasn't really happy with the institution I was at, and then went back thinking I was going to major in creative writing, but it didn't feel like an affirming place for me
Mm-hmm.
at the time. It just, like, the workshops I was in and the sort of community, it didn't vibe with who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I was a reentry student. I was pregnant with, my child, and also, as a woman of color, I noticed that it was a predominantly like white space. All
Mm-hmm.
my creative writing teachers were white,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the students in the program were white. And it wasn't that that's inherently bad. It was just that I didn't feel like it was a safe or understanding place to share my work, because
Right,
of all these parts of my identity that didn't like vibe with the rest of the people in the course.
right. And I love how you own that. You're not afraid to say that and acknowledge that. I just spoke with Adrienne like the other day, and
Uh-huh.
about also how she has these spaces for women of color and Black women, and how she also chose the program for that same reason of
Yeah.
wanting to be around people of color, because it's something that it's important to name.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think because a lot of my journey, like not just like as a writer, artist, or academic, but even just my life has been trying to figure out how to fit into white culture.
Mm.
And I wanted a space where I was like, you know what? Like F that. Like I just want, like, I want to find my voice, and
Mm.
not like, how do I make my voice? I mean, because we live in a white supremacist culture, like we're always trying to figure out
Mhm.
how to fit into white culture. But
Mhm.
um but like it was like I wanted a space of solidarity, and not like to be surrounded by people I felt like I had to assimilate into,
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I know that there was the a lot of, I don't know if propaganda is the right word.
Mm.
It's the word that comes to my mind, because I
Uh-huh.
feel like the media propagandizes a lot of different things. But
Yeah.
so there was a lot of propaganda around, um, what is it, anti-Asian hate,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there were some attacks happening um,
Yeah.
during the time that you were in the course, and I know that
Yeah.
it had affected you a certain way. And I was curious about how you used writing to support you through those emotions, if in
Yeah.
fact you even used writing to support you through that. Also, just
Yeah.
referencing because
Oh, yeah. I mean, writing has always been there as my friend,
Mhm,
when I'm a processor. I like to process stuff, whenever something happens, and people aren't always available, and sometimes you don't feel safe processing things with certain people, but writing has
mhm,
always been my way of processing usually like difficult events. And so it's, I think when I first started the course, or when we were, first talking about if it would be a good fit, I said, like, writing for me is a form of survival. if i
mm,
didn't if I didn't have that space to process some of the things that are going on in my head, in my heart, in my body, like I think I would just go crazy.
Mm.
You know, yeah, and I think during the course when that stuff was happening, I didn't really write creatively about it because it was just too painful, but I journaled, and you know, and I definitely like talked to friends in
Mhm.
my community about it.
Mhm.
Like I think that that really helped, but just being able to put words to the feeling, you
Mm.
know, whether it's in writing or just verbal, to
Mhm.
me helps me move through it, you know, or I
Mhm.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my process is so different. And I think the more, like, I have been doing mainly academic writing for the last 15 plus years with like occasional creative writing here and
Mm.
there. And so when I came into this course, it was like this, or even just when the pandemic started, like the creative writing part of me just like, I don't want to say exploded, but it like, it caught
Mhm.
fire. It like,
Mhm.
like, it had, it just, I took off, you know. And then it was interesting to prepare for this conference because it almost felt like that fire went out, you know, like the
Mhm.
fuel that was feeding that fire
Yeah.
got redirected somewhere else. And I was so used to not tending the creative fire that it's like, I was like, how do I feed it again? You know, I don't, how do I get back
Mhm.
to that fire I had? And, you know, it's a, you know, I'm still figuring that out because I haven't written as much, but I'm also trying to see how I can align, or at least, you know, inform these two different parts of my writing self, you know, with each other. Because, you know, I think I mentioned this in the course that my creative writing, it's just sort of like, it feels like something that just kind of comes to me, you know, like I'm laying in bed and like words just like appear, and like I hear them in my head and then
Mhm.
I write them down, you know. Whereas like with academic writing, I mean, I brainstorm and stuff like that, but I have like a very set process, especially because I teach composition, right? So I know the
Mhm.
process. It's like you
Mhm.
brainstorm, you like outline, you gather your
Mhm.
sources, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, you know. So it's very like structured and methodical. You know, there's a lot of creativity in it, but it's definitely, it's less what's the word? I want to say explosive. It's less like spontaneous.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm also, you know, in the course was trying to figure out like, how do I give some structure to my creative writing? How do I put
Mhm.
more intention into my creative writing so it's not just something that I have to wait for, but
I
like
see.
something that I can, like, maybe there's a little spark or a little seed, and then
Mhm.
how do I tend to it to help
Mhm.
it grow like the way I would tend to like an academic paper, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, uh, did you get any resolution with that, or is that still a question for you?
Still working on it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting because, for me, the biggest thing that I've noticed in terms of that is just actually just doing the writing. Like, even
Yeah.
if it's like you said, it's just a thought that comes, and I sit down and I start working with that thought, and I'll think like, oh, this feels stiff, what I'm writing
Uh-huh.
feels stiff, or this feels trite, or this doesn't feel. But I have learned to go past that, like push that to the side. Like, I have to coach myself. Okay,
Uh-huh.
yes, it's stiff. You're usually just now writing it for the first time. It's gonna be stiff.
Mhm.
So I'm like coaching myself the whole time.
Mhm.
And I'm like, so what? It's stiff. You got to keep writing it, keep writing it. And then as I'm writing it, and reading it, and writing it, and reading it, and then it starts to open up more,
Mhm.
different thoughts and ideas. And it's fascinating to see how, just committing to sitting down and writing what you have and pushing through those thoughts of insecurity, how
Mhm.
it'll just, things will start to open up, and then it becomes something that you're proud of or that you like.
Mhm.
And I'm curious how that lands with you, and do you do that as well?
Uh, I think that's something I'm starting to practice more. Um, because like I said, it's not, it's not a practice that I've cultivated,
Mhm.
over time. And so it's like, having to train yourself to
Mhm.
say it's it's okay to work on it. It's
Yeah.
okay to just sit there and not feel comfortable with it and to push past that
Mhm.
point of discomfort, you know?
Yeah.
Because I guess I had this myth, right, that really great art like
Mm.
comes from this, like, I don't know, this magical unknown, like mysterious place, and it just manifests itself. But it's
Mm.
like actually really great art takes a lot of work, and it's okay for it to like be work. I think
Mhm.
I had this like misconception that if I worked on it, that it's like it cheapens it or it makes it less authentic,
Oh.
you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
But to actually sit and work on something, I'm still learning how to be comfortable in that.
Yeah. It's so fascinating that because when you were describing how your creative writing comes to you, you said like, it'll just come to you and kind of
Yeah.
in I want to say in a divine way. It just
Yeah.
comes to you. And to me that sounded magical when you were describing that.
Yeah.
I imagine you just, laying down and just kind of in that half dream, half awake state, and things are
Hmm.
just floating down into your little brain.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that feels very magical. So
Yeah.
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 Um I like that we're talking about also how the one type of writing um has a lot of structure to it, and a structure that you understand and that you train others in, and you
Hmm.
feel comfortable with kind of what's known. It's There's something known and you feel
Hmm.
comfortable, right? And
Hmm.
then to shift your gears or your brain to the unknown, which is allowing the creativity to come and kind of it lead you and take its own form, and then
Yeah.
we kind of follow behind that, right? um,
Hmm.
and just how that is challenging to balance those two, because in
Hmm.
fact you have you're you're in a writing world as an English teacher, uh, as one who writes papers for conferences and things like that. But people don't realize, like I get a lot of writers who are attracted to the program, who actually, one of their blocks is that they feel like they can't. Let's see, one of their blocks. How am I going to put this? I want to say like okay, like how in the course I talked about the focus of the course was for us to uh, care for our writing, right?
Hmm.
So how to nurture and care for our writing, and
Yeah.
because we're balancing so many things, right?
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that um, we're balancing is a part of our life that requires a different kind of thinking, and
Hmm.
then needing to sit down and write, which write creatively, which takes a different kind of thinking. And it's
Hmm.
not always easy to be like, okay, from 9 to 5 I'm this kind of thinker, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to give an hour to this kind of thinking.
Hmm.
We're like, it's like the world tells us, oh, well, you have to just carve out an hour a day, or carve out this, or carve out that, right? You can, but it's really not that easy to change gears. And so that's why I like
Hmm.
to really frame the course as us being compassionate and kind with ourselves, be,
Hmm.
right? So that we're holding that creative space. And then when we have the ability to actually sit down and empty out everything we've been holding, we can
Yeah.
do that and play with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Mhm.
something I also struggle with, or like really think about a lot in terms of my creative writing. Because as an English teacher, right, I'm used to looking at poetry from this academic place.
Mm.
And so when I write, it's like, when you talk to academics and they're like, oh, what are your research interests? Or like, you have to like categorize yourself. You're like, oh, okay, these are
Mhm.
my like keywords, right? And these are my, um, the search terms that you would look to find my work, right? But and then as a creative writer, I feel like you also get pigeonholed into these like sort of, oh, you're a woman of color, oh, you're queer, oh, you're Filipina, oh, you have to write about these things, you know. And I think that it's really hard to like to also feel like, oh, are there things that I'm quote unquote supposed to write about, you know, that people are expecting from me? But then also, is there a way that it's supposed to take shape in order for people to you know, like what counts as poetry? And I love poetry because it is very like open and flexible in terms of form, especially, I mean, nowadays. But it's also like, I still feel like all writers, you know, we get trapped in these boxes of, oh, you know, oh, you write spoken word, or, oh, you write like, you know, sonnets or whatever. And like, it's just, you know, oh, you write like political stuff or, you know, relationship stuff. And it's like, I just feel like I really struggle with how to be like a writer, like the sort of multiplicity of writing, like how do you get that across?
And I remember you, so now this is giving me more clarity on, because you kind of brought it up in the course, right? Like how do, what fits into this project that you're working on, which pieces, and so did it come from that? Is that what you were referring to, like looking at all the different pieces, and then like you said, they're in different categories? Is it okay, basically? Do I have permission from, I don't know, from all the people who want to know what kind of writer I am? Do I have permission from them to be the writer I want to be? And then so how are you in terms of dealing with that? Like, what's your progress on that aspect?
I think where I'm at right now is like, I just want to create. I just want to produce stuff. I still got words in me, you know, and then let's see what comes out. And then maybe I liked your idea in the course of like putting it on index cards and then kind of seeing the lay of the land, you know, like what is there? Is there a logic? Is there a structure to it? And it's funny because so Adrienne, Hillary and I, we actually met on Sunday just to, you know, commit to our writing. And and I got, you know, I logged on and I was like, you know what, we're going to devote half an hour and then we'll reflect afterward. And I was like, I don't really feel like writing today. I kind of want to draw. And so I drew, because when I draw it's kind of a similar process where I don't have an image in mind. I just put pencil to paper and see what comes out. And then sometimes writing will generate from what I've drawn. So I did that and I just drew. And then they were like, oh, well, have you ever thought of, like, Adrienne was like, have you thought of illustrating your poetry book? And I have, and I'm just like, but I'm like, wow, where is this all going to fit in? You know, like how do you bring in all these pieces? And not that, I mean, I think we're lucky in that right now there's a lot of sort of genre and like form bending stuff out there. Like people have really paved the way to challenge like what poetry is, what art is, you know what I mean, what, you know, all these things, you know. So I'm not saying that it's like this impossible task. It's something I'm grappling with now.
Oh, I love that you just followed what was natural and comfortable and what you were inspired to do at that moment. Like, I'm gonna draw. That's because there's so many ways, like you said, there's so many ways for us to come to our writing. Something that was fascinating for me was that you're already a strong writer. So you came into the program already as a strong. Remember that first poem that you shared? I don't know if you remember it. I can't remember the name of it, but on our first day, you shared. Not the one that I gave you a prompt for. There was one that you brought into the course on the first day. But the one I gave you the prompt for that you created on the spot was amazing too.
Oh,
So
oh,
do you still have it? Do you remember that one too?
the one from the first day, the one that I
Yeah,
read.
from the prompt, also the one that I gave you the prompt for.
Oh, about will I hurt you if?
Yes, that was so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh,
But
yeah.
what I want to say is you came in already as such a strong writer, and so I'm curious. I've shared this with you all before, that you all are the kind of the first group that came in with such experience with writing as a whole group. You know, you being an English professor, and Adrian being a creative writing professor, and Hillary being the director of a Bay Area writing project. So I'm curious as to what drew you to the program, and what you feel. How did the program support you, and if there's areas where you would have liked more support, or you know.
So what brought me to the program was my friend McTate.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he is like, he's solid, you know, and he's done such amazing work. And I love the way he nurtures writers and just holds space for them. You know, he has first Thursdays at the UFRED at Dianza. And so he heard me do a piece at Rock the School Bells at Dianza like a few years back. And he was like, oh, you should come to First Thursdays. And I was like, I don't know. This is when like we were still doing things like on campus. So I was like, oh man, it's like late. I got to get home, take care of my kids, whatever. But I just knew that he had been doing a lot of really great like writing as well, like his own work. And so I reached out and I was like, you know, I've been writing a lot, but it's sort of like you're kind of writing for yourself. And then you're like, well, what do I do with this? And I realized that I hit a wall for myself and just wanted to start putting stuff out there, getting feedback, just knowing how stuff landed with people. And so I asked McTate, I was like, you know, can you recommend like a good writing space for me? And so he recommended you, and I checked you out and, you know, reached out and, you know, and then, yeah, I came to the course because it felt like what I needed at the time, you know, which was just a place to share, a place that was welcoming and affirming. And so that was really nice. And it was definitely like, you know, I liked that we were all teachers, that were all, you know, and all like community college teachers too. Like that was amazing. And that we were all women. And it just, you know, it was, and I like that it was a small group, because I felt like I really got to know everyone's work and everyone's process. And it was a good model for me, just to think, oh, like I can do this. Like, you know, we're all at different stages at our writing, and that's okay. And we're still here to support each other. So I really liked that. I really appreciated it. I liked having the space and time to write. I guess one thing I would have liked was maybe more prompts, because I felt like that helped me generate a lot. Like I don't know, maybe it's because, you know, I like culturally like identify, I want to be a good student, you know. So like I want the question. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really appreciate like all the encouragement and just the holding space for us, you know, and just the really great like resources that you provided and coaching. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing more about your book as it develops.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have a tentative published by date, or?
No. I think what my first small goal is to just publish a piece.
Okay.
You know, somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be looking for that.
Okay. I will definitely update you if that happens.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Mhm.